Good afternoon, Dalila Bela.
Hi,
Welcome
good
back
afternoon.
on VH Berries.
Thank you so much for having me again.
I am extremely grateful because we spoke 3 years ago, and if back then I knew the hurdles that you were going to go through, I would have brought you a pair of gloves to avoid any rope burn from your song of the same name, as well as the rose prickle that you describe in your debut single called Stay. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. I'm doing really great. It's it's a really lovely day. How are you doing?
I am doing good as well. And in reality, let's keep the past unchanged with Dalila Bela gloveless because we wouldn't have the songs otherwise.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Furthermore, you might be gloveless, but you are scarf full because you need to protect your voice ahead of your upcoming tour. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I'm working on more music like all the time. But a thing that I've always wanted to do and that I've been sort of like working toward this entire time is I want to like perform on stage and being able to sing my music's live. So right now I'm sort of in the process of like gathering musicians and sort of building my team, and then gonna start like rehearsing and whatnot. So I don't know when exactly I'm gonna be like performing live, but I'm working towards that. Making new music, meeting new people, and I'm really, really excited. And I'm definitely gonna keep like you and everybody up to date on when that's gonna start. But yeah, I'm working toward that.
Absolutely, Dalila Bella, you're preparing everything in the shadow. Uh, Ahead of performing on stage and touring, and it actually, as you just mentioned, started a few weeks ago with a global search for guitarist, bassist, drummer, pianist, and violinist.
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking for like people. I play guitar and I play piano and I sing. And I'm a singer-songwriter. But I don't play the drums, I don't play the bass. And I'm starting to learn how to play the electric guitar, but I'm not like super great at it. And a thing that I've always adored being able to do is truly like collaborate with other artists. And when I was I think 17. Yeah, when I was 17, I was invited by one of my coworkers that I had written a song with for his EP. His name is Kyle Meager. I wrote the song with him, Drop Me a Line, that was on his EP Bagel Shop, if I'm not mistaken. And when I was 17, he asked me if I wanted to basically like perform some songs with him on stage. And in order to do that, like we were going to be having like he had I think a guitarist friend, or I think it was his sister on the guitar. He had a friend on the drums, one on the keyboard. I was singing either backup or like lead singing with him, like we were doing duets and stuff. And just the energy that it was to be able to be on that stage with those other musicians, with the crowd performing, I was like, yes, I need to do this. This is like, it just filled me with so much joy and such a sense of like rightness that yeah, I'm looking for people because that is one of my goals in life is like I want to tour. I want to be on stage. I want to work with these amazing musicians and interact with the fans, and I'm share my music in that way as well. So yeah.
If I understood correctly, Dalila Bela, you are extremely confident and excited concerning that new chapter, which is at the complete opposite of the personality of the character named Danny Martin in the short film Score Datura, because she is extremely scared.
Yeah, that short film was really fun to film. It was my younger brother Bruce. He wants to become a director. So right now he's studying like cinematography, directing actors for the screen. And he was going to be doing this kind of short film for a class. And he asked me if I was like free to be able to act in it. And I was like, yeah, of course, that would be lovely. So yeah, the short film was really nice. And I really loved the way that it kind of like tackled anxiety, but also specifically like the like stage fright, almost the anxiety that can come from like putting yourself out there in this way and knowing that people are going to be observing you. People are going to be making judgments and decisions about every single little thing that you're about to do, because the protagonist was a violinist who was about to start I think it was a showcase or something of the sort. So her performance is being criticized, like, to the minute detail. And my character had, like, just come from performing and feeling like, oh my gosh, what if I didn't do this right? What if I missed this one little thing? Which I, as a person, can relate to a lot. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So when I do anything, I want it to be like exactly right. And if, let's say, even if someone else is telling me like, no, you did great, you did good, this was awesome, I'm gonna be like, but like, what if I could have done better? And I'm trying to work on that, because it can lead to you never really appreciating your successes and always focusing on things that you could have done better. And I feel like, yeah, it's good to always evaluate yourself to determine ways in which you can continue to grow. But it's also important for you to recognize when, like, no, I did a good job. I did a good job. And sure, maybe there are always things that I can improve on. But if I don't recognize that I did good, I'm never going to be satisfied and happy with me as a person. And that will then stop me from growing, because I'm just going to be so focused on the past that I won't be able to focus on the present. So Danny's character is really, really focused on like what just happened and on her potential failure, that she ends up like spooking the other girl who's about to go on as well. Which, yeah, it was a really fun thing to film, and I'm really, really grateful that I was able to be a part of it, because it turned out really lovely, and it was wonderful to also work with my brother.
It was a great experience working with your brother Bruce. And as a matter of fact, that character that you played, called Alex, was the girl in the mirror.
Yeah.
I made, Dalila Bela, a reference to one of your songs, because in the unique scene in which you appear in that short film called Score Datura, you're in front of the mirror.
Yeah. That was a cool shot. My brother Bruce Solomon, he loves doing like mirror shots, so that was kind of like his idea in order to get this really interesting perspective. And yeah, the song, my song "Girl in the Mirror," if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it was the third song I released, and it is a very, all of my songs have different like meanings to me and different importances, and they stem from different moments of my life and different emotional journeys that I was going through at the time. Girl in the Mirror was actually, the day that I had gone in to record with my music producer, or to work with my music producer, I had actually been going in to write a completely different song. But I was very stuck on that one, and I was trying to like rewrite the chorus, and I couldn't get lyrics that like felt like they worked for me. They all felt fake, or they just weren't resonating with me. And so my music producer, Sam Welch, he asked me like, okay, instead of focusing so much on like getting the exact right word, just talk to me about like what this feels like for you. And so I started going on and talking about how like, I felt very, very alone, and how I simultaneously saw the person that I was in the mirror, and there was a part of me that was always like unhappy with that no matter what I did, but also it felt like any time that I would try and change something, I would just get stuck. And as I was talking about it, my music producer, he just kind of looked at me and he went, that's a song. What you're talking about right now, that's a song. And so I think in like 20 minutes to a half hour, I wrote the entirety of Girl in the Mirror. My music producer went to his like keyboard and he started playing this like chord progression, and we were messing around with it until eventually we're like, okay, yeah, that's the kind of sound that we want to create. That feels right to me. And then he basically put that on a loop, and I just wrote, and I was singing, and sometimes I would say a line and then he'd be like, that doesn't exactly feel right. And I'd be like, yeah, you're right. Okay, wait, let me go over this again. And it flowed. And that feeling of when you're creating and you just, it's like the art is flowing through you as you're creating it. That's what it felt like writing Girl in the Mirror. And it was such a lovely experience because it's a very painful song. I tend to write a lot from the perspective of pain. Music is like my catharsis and my way of externalizing that. And Girl in the Mirror is a very sad song intentionally, because in that moment I was feeling very sad, and it felt so liberating to be able to release that in that way. And the fact that like, yeah, it was maybe like 20 to 30 minutes that it took me to write the entire song. And then, the production aspect started and we started building off of that. But the bass in of itself, I wrote in like 20 to 30 minutes, and it was lovely.
It was a lovely process, Dalila Bela, because the art was flowing through you with the support of your producer, Sam Welsh. And you are a force that brings a few lines to merge together, giving shape to a rope gently approaching the fire. And this result is called a rope burn. Can you tell us a little bit more about this song? This is my favorite one.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, of course. That one started, I had one sort of, the way that I write is, I used to write very like messily. I would think that I first started writing music when I was around 15. And I didn't record anything. I didn't even write anything down. I thought I would just remember it all, which is not how that works. You need to write it down. You need to record it. So I record everything now and I write everything down now. And so for Rope Burn, I actually sort of built it in pieces. I have this one line that I really wanted to include somehow that was, I've got rope burn on my palm from holding on to you. Cracked and broken. When you said that we were forever, I thought love was pain, couldn't complain. I had kind of written that as a sort of like poem before I realized that that was going to be my chorus. But I was really stuck on this sort of imagery of when sometimes holding on to something hurts more than just letting it go. So the fact of like you're holding on to it so tight, because rope burn happens when you're sort of gripping, let's say, a rope very tightly and it gets pulled very like suddenly, or you fall. And so your palm gets very scratched up and it's this burn this friction burn that happens because of it. And so you end up, in a way, sometimes it's better for you to just let go of the rope, depending on the situation. But sometimes it's actually better for you to just let go of the rope to stop that pain than to keep holding on to it. And rope burn sort of came from a sort of relationship that I was in when I was 18 years old. And the person that I was dating at the time, it wasn't necessarily, I'm not going to say they were the worst person in the world, but we shouldn't have been dating. Neither one of us was necessarily in a super like great place to even like have build a good healthy relationship. And I had this really messed up kind of idea of what love was supposed to be like. I thought that love was this like, oh, the boombox in the rain saying, I love you, please take me back, you know, oh, you're both crying and you're like, I don't know what to do without you, I can't live without you. And I had this very dramatic idea of what love was supposed to be like. And so if in the relationship, if it didn't look like that, I started getting anxious and being like, oh my God, you know, does that mean that he's not in love with me? Oh no, you know, which is also crazy because we were dating for only almost 3 months, which is where the second verse kind of comes from, which is one of my most favorite things that I've written thus far, which is, I was so young thinking I was in love, but honey, what do you know about love when you've known him 3 months? Where I'm like kind of talking to my 18-year-old self, being like, oh my gosh, you're being insane. Because that's what it felt like at the time. It felt so crazy. And I was so... The first verse talks about that, where I say, like, don't know what's wrong with me to make everyone leave. Hurt myself to love you. Maybe I'm just too naive. Like, I felt like there was something wrong with me for so long. And I believed that I had to keep holding on to him, even if it was hurting me. Because I was like, oh, what if no one ever loves me again? What if no one's ever interested in me romantically ever again? Which, again, is it's a thought that right now at 23, like 5 years later, I'm going, oh my gosh, girl, calm down. But at 18, it felt like the whole thing. And that doesn't make it less. It doesn't make that feeling less, but it does mean that like now at 23, I have different experiences, the experiences of my life. I have different like lessons that I have learned over the course of my life that can help me make, I guess, better decisions now than I made then, or let's say different decisions now than I made back then at 18. But that is what it felt like. And so when I wrote Burn, it was from the perspective of 18-year-old me, where I believed that love was meant to hurt, that love was pain, which is why I didn't even notice that there was something wrong when I was in pain. When I was going to bed crying in the middle of the night, when I would not be able to sleep because I was worried that maybe he didn't love me, that I was giving my everything to him and that he didn't care about me in return. And that is where Rope Burn kind of stemmed from. And I am very, 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 I'm very grateful that like my experience, my music was able to like resonate with a bunch of people. Because while it was a painful experience, that's kind of why like I make my music. It's not only to release that pain that I feel inside for me, but also to share it with other people so that other people can also be like, hey, you're not alone. This stuff happens sometimes. You feel this way sometimes and it sucks and you're not alone. So it makes me really, really happy to know that like people listen to Rope Burn and are like, oh, I feel that. I resonate with that. I connect to that. This is a song that I feel connected to. And I'm like, yeah, it warms my heart to know that like we're not alone in this.
Absolutely, Dalila Bela. It felt like the whole world a few years ago, but today this is just a verse. And you just said that you are writing everything down. And it caused recently a stock shortage of purple ink and a plethora of blue ink. Why don't you switch to blue ink to write your confessions?
Yeah. Confession was fun too. Confession actually was another song that I wrote similarly to Ropeburn, where I had these two lines for months that I did not know what they were going to become. The only two lines that I had written was, I confess my feelings to the floor, so scared of wanting more. And that was it. And I was like, I don't know what this is going to become. But for months, I just had these two. I write everything on my notes app because my phone is more often than not on me. And sometimes it's a bit of a hassle to carry a notebook with me everywhere. But I have my phone. So I have a bunch of like different notes on my notes app that's like new song lyric, potential new song idea, whatever. And sometimes it's just a couple of lines, but it helps, especially when I'm like sitting down with my guitar and I'm like, okay, let me see. Let me write some music, and I'll go over my notes, and sometimes I'll hit upon one of my old like lyric ideas and be like, oh, I'm inspired to like write something from this right now. And so that's what happened with Confession. Is I had written that, and then a couple of months later, I was scrolling through my notes app and I saw, I confess my feelings to the floor, so scared of wanting more. And I went, ah, there we go. And so I kind of latched onto that. And Confession stemmed from when I had a crush on someone that I was working with, which isn't ideal. It's not great. But I've always been a person, I've been in the sort of like entertainment industry ever since I was 5 years old. So I've been in the entertainment industry for 18 years now. And an aspect of that I kind of internalized a lot as when I was like growing up was my career has to come first. My, whatever it is, whether it is acting, whether it's music, whether it's both, my career is what is important to me. And so I need to work on that. That is always my focus. And so that kind of meant that when there were potential romantic relationships that could come in the way of my career, I wouldn't really pursue them because I was like, okay, well, if this is going to potentially impede my career, I'm not going to let that happen. So I can't pursue this romantic relationship. I need to focus on my career. And that's been my mentality for years now. And I don't necessarily not have that mentality anymore. The Confession kind of stemmed from the idea of like, what if I had chosen my heart instead of my career? What if I had chosen to pursue the romantic route, and maybe it wouldn't have impeded my career? I don't know, but I didn't make that decision. I chose to stop that and pursue my career, which is where Confession kind of was born, where I was like, I wish I could know what would have happened. Maybe I could have tried, but I didn't, and now I don't have that opportunity anymore. And so now the only thing that I can do is just sit back and just watch as you flourish. And I know that maybe we could have been something, maybe nothing would have happened, maybe it's actually better that we didn't do anything. But I don't know that for sure and certain, and that bugs me sometimes. Sometimes it keeps me up at night where I'm like, you know, what if I had just said yes? What if I had just taken that leap instead of taking this one? What would have happened? And so that's kind of the... That's kind of the story behind Confession and the reason behind writing it, because I feel like that sensation of what if I had just said yes to this person? What if I had just taken that jump instead of being, I know what it is like to work harder on my career. I know what it's like to dedicate myself to my career, to push myself in that direction in terms of my career. I don't have as much experience with love, with romantic relationships, with romance in that sense. And so it makes it scarier. The idea of, what if I throw myself into this and it doesn't work? It's scary. And that was what happened. And I went, well, you know, it's better if I just do this instead of that, because I know how to do this. I know how to do this well. I don't know if this is going to work out. This isn't as certain. So I would rather focus on the thing that is certain. But you never know. And we need to all live with our choices and our decisions, and that can really suck sometimes.
That is Dalila Bela, the story of why there is currently a worldwide shortage of purple pen and ink. And additionally, to reuse the two words that you just pronounced, what if? I could say, what if the song Confession was the end of a bigger cycle? Because we can, for example, see the necklace from your single called Wishbone on the cover of Confession.
Yeah. Wishbone was a song that I kind of wrote about my like childhood best friend. That we This was around the time I was 12 years old, and I had just gotten hired to play Agent Olive on the PBS Kids TV show called Odd Squad. And at the time, when I was 12 years old, I was initially living in Vancouver, Canada. But Odd Squad filmed in Toronto, Canada, which is on the other side of Canada. And I had a like best friend at the time, and we were really close, and we would spend all the time together. But like, I didn't have a phone, she didn't have a phone. And so staying in touch was really tough. And even after, because after like a couple of months, I had gotten a phone, she had gotten a phone, but it just wasn't the same. We didn't keep in contact in that same way. And then when I was like finally able to go back to Vancouver for a little bit, when Odd Squad was on hiatus, when we had filmed for a bit and then we were on a bit of a break, I had gone back to Vancouver, and I had seen her again. And it hurt a lot when she basically told me that it was too much work to be my friend, that I was too far away, that it was too hard to be friends with someone that wasn't there all the time, that doing the long distance type thing was too much work. It was too much work to be my friend. And yeah, we were 12, right? We were kids. But at the same time, it hurt a lot at the time because she was my very first, like, friend in that sense. And so to have my friend tell me that I am not worth the effort hurt a lot. And it felt like, for a long time, it felt like there was a part of me, like, missing because of that, which is where Wishbone came from, which is you took the better half of my wishbone. And in the cover of Confession, I ended up using the necklace that I used in Wishbone because it has that same feeling of that loss, of the what if, of the, oh, what if we had both tried harder? You know, what if we had both worked more to make it work? Maybe we would still be friends to this day. Maybe the same thing would have happened and we would have drifted apart. I don't know that. And Wishbone also has that same feeling of the what if, but more specifically focusing on feeling like there's a piece missing from you when that person leaves and not knowing if you're gonna get that piece back. So yeah, that's why the necklace was also in the cover of Confession.
Absolutely, Dalila Bela, the necklace has appeared in those two single covers and graphics. And that episode with your first friend was, I believe, the beginning of an emotional bridge exploring themes of longing and resilience because you wanted her to stay.
Yeah. My song Stay, was really I'm loving these puns. It's really great. Yeah, my song Stay I actually wanted it to be a bit of a play on words, where the song is called Stay, but what I'm actually telling you to do is to stay away. I'm almost saying, I feel like there is, it's similar to Rope Burn, where the chorus is exactly that, where I say, I fight that voice inside that tells me that you don't love me unless you cry. You are a work of art. I want to study you, tear you apart. So stay away. It comes from that same idea of feeling like I don't know if I can love if pain is not involved in some way. And because I don't want to do that, until I can reach a place in which that isn't my constant reality, I don't want to hurt you, so I want you to stay away from me. And it is, it was a lot of fun to write because I wanted to use a lot of different visuals about things that shouldn't hurt but end up like a rose with thorns. Don't get too close because the rose looks pretty, but the thorns are going to hurt you. It takes two to tango, but I don't want to step on your toes. I don't want to make a mistake and end up hurting you in a thing that during a moment in which it should be beautiful. So I wanted to use a lot of that kind of visual imagery to tell that story. Because it was my very first single, and that one was a lot of fun to write as well. That was another song that kind of just flowed. I had written the first verse and the pre-chorus, and I was getting to writing the chorus, and I was also kind of like, I don't know what to say with this, and so I started breaking down the emotion, and I basically just wrote exactly what I wanted to say, which is I fight that voice inside that tells me you don't love me unless you cry. And the bridge was also really fun to write, and it was really fun to work on that with my music producer as well, because it the first half of the bridge, which is trust is hard to take, to give away when you're afraid that they won't stay. That first part is like very stripped back. It's more just the vocals and a bit of percussive elements. And what was also really cool about recording that song is that my youngest brother, Rafael Alejandro, actually does some backup vocals for it. While my music producer and I were working on the production aspect of the song to make it into like what it sounds like now, we were like, we were working on harmonies and layering the vocals, and we both felt like there was something missing. We needed a low end, but like my voice can only go so low. And then eventually I was like, oh, I have an idea, because since I was like working on Stay, I would sometimes end up like playing it out loud on like different speakers so I could hear how it sounded like. And so because of that, my youngest brother, Rafael, was like listening to my song. And because I was playing it kind of so often, he ended up like memorizing it. And so he started singing it, and I was like, oh, that's it. That's like the exact tone where it's not super low, but it is lower. It adds this more bassy element to the song that kind of connects everything. And so during one of the recording sessions, he came in and he recorded some backup vocals for the part that goes like, so stay away. He recorded for that, and he recorded some backup vocals for the bridge. And it was really lovely to be able to have him be a part of that. And actually, Stay was released on August 22nd, which is my youngest brother's birthday. So yeah, it was the production for Stay was a lot of fun, especially that it was like the very first song that I released. Like it was electric.
The work behind your debut single called Stay was electric, and those vocals that Raphael did were adding values and were as smooth as the pure Irish butter from the brand Kerrygold that you recently used to bake and cook.
Yes, yeah. I love to bake. My mother is a fantastic baker, a fantastic cook. And I learned how to bake from her. And some of my most favorite things to bake are crepes, the scones. I love to bake cakes with her. But one of my most favorite ways to like de-stress, I guess, because baking really helps me relax, because it's this, you follow the recipe, it's precise measurements, it's precise ingredients, and the repetitive motion. I love baking scones because the kneading motion of you I don't know how to describe it. You pull and you push it, and then you need to like roll it out with a rolling pin. The entire process of baking scones really helps me to like center myself, and it's a lot of fun. I haven't been able to bake recently due to being relatively busy with like music, acting, school. It's kind of crazy, but I want to bake soon because I really miss doing it, and I really, really love being able to bake not only for me, but also to then share it with my family, and being able to kind of appreciate the skills that my mom gave me from teaching me how to bake. That I'm very, very, very grateful. Apple pie is another thing. It's one of my most favorite desserts, and my mom taught me how to bake apple pie, and actually made it for me for my 23rd birthday. So it was very lovely, and yeah, the butter is a very important aspect of scones. So yeah, it's
In conclusion, that pure Irish butter is an essential component of a successful recipe, and
Yes.
I am looking forward to witness your upcoming tour as well as your future songs, and I hope that you will be wearing that time a pair of gloves to avoid rope burn. Thank you very much, Dalila Bela.
Thank you so much for having me.